Welcome to the College Football Bros, the podcast that apparently loves discussing the SEC. And now, here are your hosts, Michael, Ryan, and Trey Newman.
Welcome to the College Football Bros podcast. I am Michael Newman, and I'm joined by the brother who's as talented as Ryan Helinski.
Wow, that's quite a diss. That's me, Ryan Newman.
No. He's a 4-star. Come on, Ryan. Let's not start out like this. I'm joined by the other brother who's as beefy as Trey Smith.
I'll take it. That's me, Trey Newman.
All right. On today's episode, we are going to preview the best conference in college football, the SEC. 10-game conference-only schedule, and that's getting started this Saturday. So be sure you're subscribed, because in a couple days we'll release an episode going over all of those, I guess, week one SEC games. But let's get this episode started with our first segment, Fact or Fiction.
All right, I'll get us going here. Fact or fiction? The player with the best chance to win the Heisman from the SEC is Kyle Trask of Florida.
This is very difficult. I'm going to reluctantly say fact, mainly because when I look at his competitors, especially in the East, Georgia, they're in a quarterback race at the moment. So I couldn't put my chips all in on JT Daniels or Mathis. And then like Alabama, Mac Jones might seem like the logical choice, but I'm not convinced he'll be for sure the guy the whole year, because Bryce Young might come in and play some action. And then obviously Alabama is littered with talent. You got guys like Mond and whatnot, but I'm most confident, I guess, in Trask and the QB situation at Florida, and I know they'll be pretty good. So that's why I went fact.
Okay, I'm going fiction. Trask is as far as the odds are concerned, he is the favorite from the SEC. He's 18-1. Then you got Najee Harris 22-1, and JT Daniels actually 22-1 as well. But I think Mac Jones is the best bet, actually, at 25-1. I know he could get taken over by Bryce Young, like you said, Trey, but he's got, I think, the best supporting cast of any quarterback in the country. And last year we saw him play really well. He played, of course, he played a lot throughout the year, but especially starting those last two games against two really good defenses in Auburn and Michigan, and he threw for 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 10.3 yards per attempt. So if he can replicate that, and even, I'm sure against the lesser teams, put up even bigger numbers, then I don't see why he shouldn't be in the hunt.
Yeah, and it's not like he had a low amount of attempts in those games. It's not like he just threw a couple passes and got lucky. I mean, it was like average over 30 passes a game. So it was high usage success, high efficiency from Mac Jones. Yeah, I was just the way you said it, just the fact that he has the best supporting cast around him, to me, makes it the choice. Trask is going to be great. I love Mullen. I think Trask is going to be awesome. He's got some pieces to work with as well. But there's just no substitute for the receivers and the line that Alabama's going to bring in running game. So, and the fact that they're just, it's going to be very tough for them to lose more than 1 or 2 games, obviously. So they're going to guarantee success. So that's something you have to factor in for Heisman as well.
Okay. Next question, fact or fiction? Mike Leach is the best new hire in the SEC.
So this was close. This is a toughie. To me, it was between the two Mississippis, him and Lane Kiffin.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to say true. Say he was the best new hire. Just
right,
at this point in his
fact
career.
Or fiction, Ryan. It's fact or fiction. Can you just use the verbiage?
Yeah, come on.
Excuse me.
Affirmative.
Well, you
Go
stated it
affirmative.
like, Mike Leach is the best new hire in the SEC. So I was like, oh, that's fact. He is. Excuse me.
It's fine.
I forgot what game we're playing. It's true. It's fact.
Yeah.
Let me get my thoughts here. Yeah, it's a fact. I would just, at this point of his career, I'd just be surprised if it didn't go at least decent there. Like, he's proven that he can have success at 2 really tough spots: Lubbock, Texas, at Texas Tech, and Washington State, which was in an absolute dumpster fire when he got there. So if you can have success there, those 2 places, like really good success, not just like, okay, we're making bowl games, but like, winning 10 double-digit games, then I think you can do that at Mississippi State. Mississippi State is It's not what it was 10, 12 years ago. They've kind of rose, like, thanks to Dan Mullen, the profile of Mississippi State is definitely upped over the last 10 years. So I think he can have, I'm not saying he's going to win a conference championship or anything, but I think he'll have, solid 7-8 win seasons there.
I have to go fiction just because you mentioned the other guy. I like someone in the state a little bit better, Lane Kiffin. I just think there's a higher upside with Lane at Ole Miss. I think in the short term, like, Leach could potentially have better short-term success, particularly this year. But I think Kiffin is just set up better at Ole Miss can do better in the long run. Because we saw what Hugh Freeze was able to do at Ole Miss. I know, obviously, there was a little bit of cheating or whatever, but it's possible to recruit talent to Ole Miss and be relevant. So I think Kiffin can do the same.
Yeah, I think the recruiting is the big factor for me, because I just feel like maybe Leach can get Mississippi State up to that 7-8 wins like you talk about, Ryan, but there's bigger upside, in my opinion, with Lane Kiffin.
The variance is bigger for Kiffin. It could also flame out miserably.
Oh, for sure. But I'm a believer.
Leach, I feel confident it's not going to flame out miserably, at least not. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's possible, of course, but I just don't feel like it's that big of as with Lane Kiffin.
I agree with you, but I'm high on Lane Kiffin, obviously, as a recruiter, we just said, and as a coach. Did a great job turning around FAU. Before that, was a really good offensive coordinator for Alabama. I'm a USC fan, and I'm actually a defender of him. I thought, given the situation he inherited with the sanctions, he actually didn't do bad there. So I'm just high. I'm high on Lane Kiffin. I'm not high. I'm just.
No, you're high, and you're high on Lane Kiffin. So
both. I guess. True.
Yeah,
got it.
Sorry to Eli Drinkwitz from Missouri, Sam Pittman of Arkansas. They are also.
I consider Drinkwitz for sure. He's
off to a good start.
Yeah,
like recruiting, and
he did have a pretty good first.
I like his track record especially as an offensive coach. So we'll see.
All right, fact or fiction? The SEC will get 2 playoff teams this year.
This is a tough question. I thought a lot about this one. I'm sliding towards no, because I look at it. So there's obviously a high chance Clemson gets one of those.
Michael, it's fact or fiction.
Oh, very
not
nice.
Yes or no.
Oh, good work. Fiction. Yeah. So Clemson is one. Good chance the Big Ten gets one, likely Ohio State. The big question is, will the Big 12 get one? And I would guess yes, but if there's an undefeated Bama and maybe a 1-loss Florida or Georgia, it's going to be tough to leave one of those out. Now, the other chance too, the reason I kind of waffled on this is maybe the Big Ten with their tough protocols has to shut down the season, or maybe the Big 12 has a 2 or 3 loss champ. There's all sorts of ways that it could happen where the SEC gets 2, but I guess I lean towards the safe option of kind of one from each conference getting in.
Yeah, I'm assuming just no crazy scenarios where, Big Ten has to shut down. I'm just assuming teams get at least enough games.
I'm living in the real world, Brian.
Well, I mean, fine. Let's just go through all the what ifs. I'm assuming most teams.
Ryan, what if a meteor hits? Did you put that in your reasoning?
Wow.
Well, we're all dead.
Wow.
So
yeah, it's true.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm gonna say fiction though. Big Ten champ is in. Clemson is in. So whoever wins the SEC title in. So then it's between the Big 12 and whoever's second in the SEC. And if the Big 12, if it only could happen if the team that loses the SEC title game has 0 losses before that game. They can't have a second loss, right? Well, unless
there's chaos.
Big 12 champ has 2 losses. I'm assuming Big 12 champ has 1 loss or less. So let's just say this: if there's a 1-loss second place SEC and a 1-loss Big 12, then it's neck and neck.
Agreed. I would think that although it's tough, I think the SEC team would deserve it, likely, just based on the schedule, but they value the conference championship, so Big 12 might get in.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I see it kind of playing out. They got to be one game ahead of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I think, though, to me, especially what we've seen from the Big 12 so far, I think the winner of the Texas-Oklahoma game is going to be kind of set up for it's hard to predict someone to go unbeaten, but the winner of that game right now, when you look at it, kind of seems like they would be the logical champ, or at least unscathed champ in the Big 12, but obviously a lot can happen. So I'm saying fiction as well, just because of what you guys said. I mean, obviously Clemson could get picked off, but I'm just confident that each of those conference champs are going to end up being there. But like you said, Ryan, that scenario where if it was like an unbeaten Florida or Georgia versus an unbeaten Alabama, and it was a close game, it would be we'd get into like, some strong debates.
Oh yeah. I would be on the SEC side.
And if the OU or whoever wins the Big 12 championship, if it's not OU in Texas, like if the loss comes from somebody else, like let's say OU loses to Iowa State, but then goes on to win every other game and wins the conference championship, and you have a loss to Iowa State, and compared to what an SEC team who just lost in one point, like a field goal to Bama, it's like the SEC team has
probably
SEC, gets in, honestly, actually in that scenario.
There's a lot of ifs there. So we it's not unreasonable, but
that kind of happened. What happened a few years ago?
Well, I mean, Alabama and Georgia both got in.
Yeah. So it's. It can happen. I guess I'll revise what I just said.
You're going fact?
No, I'm just still going fiction, but it's more likely than I probably let on.
All right. Well, let's move on to a quick word from our sponsor, MyBookie. Winning season has returned at MyBookie. That means you can double your first deposit. You can bet tons of player props and cross-sport wagers. At MyBookie, winning season means watching live sports and betting live sports all season long. College football and the NFL are, of course, officially back. SEC play starts this weekend. That means action-packed weekends to go along with huge cash prizes. So get in on the action by going to MyBookie and sign up with the promo code CFBROS. That's one word, all caps, CFBROS, to double your first deposit up to $1,000 in free play money. So add more excitement to the sports you love and the games you bet. Bet with the best this college football season for your chance to win big. And again, that's promo code CFBROS. Your winning season begins today only at MyBookie. All right.
Let's do it.
SEC games this weekend.
I know. Football, baby.
I love football too.
That's so great. It's been a little light on the games, I mean, it's been kind of I'm super glad to have college football back, but it hasn't been like the greatest
some appetizers for us.
Yeah, some nice appetizers, but no, where's the encores here?
Well, yeah, we got more of a full slate this weekend. Okay, so let's get everybody ready for this weekend by previewing all 14 teams in the SEC, and we are going to start with the SEC West. So number one, no surprise, tier one. We're going to put all these teams on tiers. So the first tier from the SEC West is only Alabama. Their over-under is 8.5. The over is a -170 favorite, Trey.
So the Tide, they missed the playoff for the first time last year. So Saban has to be squarely on the hot seat, I would think.
Yeah, for sure. He's coaching for his job.
He really is. But no, they seem poised to get back this year. I think Nick will end up surviving. The big storyline this offseason has been the quarterback, obviously, since Tua has departed. It's Mac Jones. Just got announced he will be the starter, but true freshman Bryce Young, the highly touted player, you think he'll at least get some snaps and maybe even play a little bit more as the season goes along. We've talked about it earlier. Mac Jones, he played pretty dang well and put up some big numbers, especially towards the end of the last year when he was forced in when Tua went down. But with the lack of spring ball, you would think that Mac Jones will get most of the reps early on. So I'm really not worried about quarterback play either way, just because the offense is stacked around either quarterback. I mean, arguably they have the best offensive line in the country. Guys like tackle Alex Leatherwood, running back Najee Harris. You got Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle on the outside. I mean, both those guys averaged over 17 yards per catch. And Alabama, they're so stacked at receiver. When you lose 2 first-round picks, it really doesn't even matter. When they lost
2 more
up Judy, it's like it's just so they're fine there. Defensively, the reason that they maybe quote unquote regressed last year was a little bit because of the defense. They had a lot of injuries, so that played a big factor. I think they're going to bounce back in a big way this year. Dylan Moses returns. He was one of those guys that was injured all last year. 2 of their leading tackles tacklers were freshmen last year. They should only improve. Really, the only question mark I maybe see is on the secondary. You've got Patrick Surtain, who's probably one of the best corners out there, especially in the SEC. But outside of him, everyone's kind of a new piece. So they'll just fill him in with blue chip talent. But if that secondary can gel, they'll be great. So overall, I got to go over on the Tide, primarily because one, they look the best, but I also don't think the West is as stacked as it's been the last few years, at least in the last five years.
Yeah, I agree with you. Even though the over is the heavy favorite on the betting line here, it's like minus 170 on this one. I can't not go with it. I just can't see them losing 2 games, because like you said, I don't think the West is quite as dominant. So and they're going to have one of the most experienced teams. They're the most talented. They have the most experience. I mean, I'm not sure what there is until I'm a little worried just about the defense maybe regaining some of the gel that they had from before. Like, just maybe also because I think maybe the depth on the defensive lines maybe not quite at the level where they might have had it in years past. They do get LeBron Bray and
it's a lot better than last year.
I know that's the thing. It's better than last year, no doubt about it, because they'll get Ray and DJ Dale back. But it's just if there's one thing that worries me, that's not a huge worry at all, it would be that, because that slowed them down last year. But it's hard not to like them a little. I mean, Shane Lee and Christian Harris are still there too. They might not even play as much.
Shane Lee's like 3rd string, I think.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like,
a good
have a guy who played great last year who's probably not even going to have to play a whole lot. So
I don't know if I would say great, but yeah,
well, he played.
He played. Exactly.
Performed admirably for a team that won a major bowl game. So I'd take him on my team.
Yeah, so, at Nebraska, we'd take him for sure.
Yeah, I'll take anybody. I'll take the kicker, probably linebacker for them.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I mean, we've said enough about the offense being maybe the best in the country, but yeah, I just think that defense is going to take such a massive step forward with, the young guys they were able to play on the front 7, and just bringing guys back from injury. Josh McMillan's another guy at linebacker coming back. And I'm really excited about the 2 true freshman edge rushers, because the pass rush needs to get better if they want to, be that national championship team like they have been in past years. And Will Anderson and Drew Sanders, watch out for those guys. They're apparently looking really good in camp. So, all over Alabama's over. Let's go to tier 2.
Yeah, so into tier 2, the first team that we have is the Texas A&M Aggies. Their over/under is set at 7. With the over being the slight favorite. So Ryan, what's your take on the team in College Station?
I like A&M. I do. I think they're going to keep on improving. I like what's going on there with Jimbo Fisher, Kellen Mond's solid. But to win this bet, they got to go 8-2. If you take the over, I mean, that's tough. And one of those games is at Alabama, so that's a very, very likely loss. So you're telling me they got to go 8-1 in those other games? I think it's just asking too much right now, especially, with some of the losses that they had. They just lost their best receiver in Javon Osborne, who opted out. That is a gigantic loss. We already know.
That's such a big loss.
Yeah, because they don't really have a ton after him, so that he was really a key piece. So, and of course, they had already lost starting defensive back, Elijah Blades, probably was going to started towards the end of last year. He's going to sit out as well. So that's 2 peak. Osborne's the bigger piece, but Blades is still a significant factor.
Baylor Cup getting injured again at tight end.
Yeah, exactly. In his 2nd year in a row for him, Cup getting hurt, so that's just another blow. I mean, they didn't have him last year, so it's not like but it's a loss. And I like Isaiah Spiller at running back, so they're still going to be good, no doubt about it. I like them; they're going in the right direction. If they had Osborne back and Blades was not there and Cup was healthy, I might think about going on the over here, but I just can't do it right now. So I'm going to take the under on A&M. I'll let you guys kind of touch more on the D, but I think they're heading in the right direction, but that's a tall order.
Yeah. I mean, I really wanted to be, I guess, super high on A&M going into this year, because we said it in our 2019 preview. 2020 is the year for A&M. They had so much youth last year. They had a lot of, sophomores and juniors getting playing time. Seemed like everyone was going to be back, and 2020 would be great. Obviously, now that we're here, I'm not quite as confident. Even though, you got the returning quarterback, you got 4 starters back on the O-line. You mentioned Isaiah Spiller at running back, but receiving core is now a worry without Osborne. Obviously tight end, you still got Jalen Weidermeyer. So he was I think a freshman All-American last year. He was great. So it's not as if there's nothing there. And there's, a lot of talented freshmen and sophomores at receiver. It's just a matter of who's going to step up. And they don't have much time to gel because game 2 and 3, you got Alabama and Florida. So that's
the thing, like
a little bit of a concern. Now, defensively, though, and I'm still, relatively optimistic on the offense with Jimbo, but defensively, I really like the defense. Matabike is kind of the only major loss from the front 6. So I think that there'll be solid group. And Mike Elko, the guy knows how to coach defense, so I don't worry too much about it.
A nice replacement for Matabike. Jaden Peavy's maybe an NFL guy himself, so that's someone who steps in pretty nice.
There you go. And the secondary, they gave up way too many big plays last year. They do add a 5-star freshman, Jalen Jones, one of the top JUCO corners in the country, Brian George. So hopefully that can help shore up that group. But overall, I'm just going over. Maybe I'm just digging into my 2019 opinion. I love the way Jimbo's recruited. I just think those talented guys are going to start filling out more spots on the roster. And last year, they were 20th in Sagarin and or around 20th in SP Plus, I think, too. And they're 16th in returning production. So,
and I guess like we mentioned, Trey mentioned, SEC West seems to be a little less, top heavy. So the Auburns and the LSUs maybe won't be, quite as high as they may have been.
Mm-hmm.
Well, certainly LSU.
If the receivers step up, I think this is a top 10 team. That's a big if, but I'll take the over.
I'm going over too. Ryan, you just touched on it. The SEC West it's kind of up for grabs in that second spot right now, and I think A&M can do it. Even with the opt-outs, didn't help. The 7 over under, the 7-3 seems accurate considering the opt-outs. I think without the opt-outs, I'd be all in. I'd probably be sneaking them in the playoff or something. I don't know, but the offense, you guys really hit on it. I'm very optimistic because I trust Jimbo on that side of the ball. Isaiah Spiller is great, but they lost a lot of production behind him. Some of those guys ended up transferring away. So just need Spiller to stay healthy there. The defense, it's funny because A&M hasn't really been renowned for being a strong defensive team really since their wrecking crew defenses back when like RC Slocum was the head coach. They had guys like Dat Win, for people that remember back like the late 90s. Just kind of date myself to the younger audience. But there's just a lot of returning production, and I'm really optimistic on the defensive side of the ball. And even if the offense isn't living up to the full potential, I have confidence that the defense has improved enough to at least get them over the hump this year.
And another thing with A&M that we were so high on is, their schedule was, just SEC only is tough, and then they obviously pick up Florida. So, their non-conference this year, I think like Colorado was like going to be their kind of their marquee. So it would have been very likely 4-0.
Their original schedule had set up so well to be like 8-1 or something. Like it was very well set up. So
they still had Florida and Bama, of course. But
what's that?
They still had Florida and Bama early on in the year. But
in the original schedule?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Maybe not.
I don't think that's right.
It was set up nice.
No, you're right. I don't think it is.
Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with all the schedules.
I know. I clicked on the
Big Ten released 3 of them.
Now I'm accessing it. I was trying to look it up right now.
Okay. Do you have it?
Well, I thought I did, but
it's all right. Minor details.
All right, moving on. It was a good schedule. Let's go to the number 3 team here in the SEC West.
Yeah, we got the Tigers of Auburn here. They're over under set at 6.5, with the over being favored there. So, Michael, what do you think of Gus Malzahn's group?
Well, going into my research, I expected to be a lot lower on Auburn than I am because the defense is, of course, what carried them last year, and they lose 4 experienced starters from the secondary. They lose Marlon Davidson and, of course, the big one, Derek Brown from up front. So I thought, man, they're going to really fall off on that side of the ball. I actually think the defense won't take a huge step back. In the secondary, even though there's a lot of losses, the projected starters all got a good amount of playing time last year. The linebacking core is loaded. Of course, KJ Britt, the leader there. Owen Papo, the former 5-star, could break out. And on the D-line, I think Big Cat Bryant is a guy that's going to see an uptick in sacks with more opportunities. And they just have, some talented players that seem like they could break out. So I trust Kevin Steele to have a good defense. Offense is where I have major questions. Bo Nix, he's kind of polarizing. So the upside he has is huge. I acknowledge that. But as a freshman, he was relatively inefficient. And, of course, he'll get better. And he's got 3 returning receivers and Chad Morris coming in to call plays. But I'm not yet counting on him to be a top 5 SEC quarterback like I think some people have that opinion. So especially with 4 starters gone on the offensive line. So I'm going to go under.
Like all of them practically. Yeah.
Auburn.
Yeah. I gotta lean under too. I like the offense. My major concerns are, you just touched on it, Michael, the offensive line. They basically have to be rebuilt. Not an ideal situation. And with Bo Nix, maybe he can take that sophomore leap, and I'm rooting for him too, because I enjoy watching Auburn when they're good. But he had 5 games last year where he was around 50% or less. So he's really going to have to be more consistent for Auburn to get over the edge or over this win total, especially because you kind of laid out of some of their defensive losses. You touched on the D-line losses. The one encouraging, there was a linebacker you also didn't mention, Christian Tutt. He's a good
kind of a nickel back kind of guy.
Yeah, that's true. But the fact that they have to kind of rebuild on both the trenches, the offensive and defensive line, that's what kind of made me go under, as well as they draw 3 ranked teams from the supposedly weaker East Division, which maybe not so much weaker this year. So that's why I had to go under.
I agree with you guys. I'm going under here. It's the same reasoning: offensive line, defensive line. I just when you aren't able to consistently protect the quarterback, when you're not consistently able to run, I mean, I don't know. It's just going to be it's extraordinarily hard. I do like the skill talent. I mean, I like Seth Williams. They got Schwartz. They got some good pieces there. But unless you're a magician like Lincoln Riley, it's tough replacing all that experience up front. So. I just see this team as slightly worse than last year. I mean, I think defense will be slightly worse, and I don't think the offense will really be a whole lot different. So I just don't see it. I'm not seeing a huge jump.
Auburn, though, right now is kind of my 2021 team. Like, they've got a lot of youth and a lot of talent that can really develop, that I think they could be the team next year. Like, I think they'll be strong.
Yeah. Well, Auburn also has a tendency to do the opposite of what you think they're going to do. So maybe they'll just be great this year.
Maybe this is the year.
Absolutely. And the thing is, we're all going to be wrong. We all took under, right? We're all going to be wrong if Bo Nix lives up to the hype. If he does that, then they're probably going over. Even with I think they go at Georgia and at Alabama this year. That's rough.
They have a tough slate.
Okay, let's go to, we're still on tier 2 here, and the last team from tier 2 in the SEC West is the defending national champions, LSU. Their over-under is set at 7, so 7-3 is the expectation. The over, though, is a minus 145 favorite. What do you think, Trey?
I mean, even before the COVID opt-outs of Jamar Chase and Tyler Shelvin, they lost a ton. It's been well documented from last year's title team. I mean, over a dozen players got drafted, including, of course, Joe Burrow. They lose the co-offensive coordinator, Joe Brady. Dave Aranda's gone to Baylor, the defensive coordinator. I mean, that is a lot of turnover to be really good again. I know that they've recruited very well, but that's a lot to ask. There's going to have a new offensive line is most likely going to have to protect Miles Brennan at quarterback. He was okay in mop-up duty. He did what he had to. But thinking he'll be able to take a giant leap similar to Burrow is just totally unrealistic. Outside of Terrace Marshall at wideout, pretty much LSU's whole offense is going to be relying on a lot of young talent that they've recruited. Defensively, they bring back Bo Pelini, defensive coordinator. It's going to be a tall task for him this year back in the Bayou, transitioning them to a 4-3. Now that Shelvin opted out, most of the line is going to be brand new and basically auditioning this fall camp. Pelini doesn't have to worry about the secondary, though. Derek Stingley had a ridiculous freshman year. He could have been drafted after his freshman year high. He'll lock down his half of the field. So I'm not too worried. Jacoby Stevens at safety is also very good. But for me, overall, I just don't see them getting to 8 wins to beat me, especially since they have four on the when you look at the preseason kind of schedule, they have 4 top 10 teams. I just think they fall back and go under.
Yeah, I mean the line does seem a bit high when 8 does. It takes 8 to beat you. But I will say though, like, yeah, they're going to regress, but let's also try to remember, like, they were so far ahead of a lot of people last year. Like, they were so much better. So it's like they have some room to fall while still being like dead even on the playing field before they start falling behind teams. So maybe now it's just a little more
I almost
even.
think it's just like a totally different team, though. It's not even like if you're just kind of adjusting from last year, it's going to be hard to adjust far enough. But
I think it's going to be like last year was like I'm not going to say one hit wonder, but it was just like out of the variance of what's normal there. So, they'll still come back and be a good team this year. No doubt. They have a ton of talent. They always have talent there, and they have some pieces to work with, but no doubt. But 8 does seem a little bit hard when they have some tough teams to play against, and they're going to have so much inexperience. Like, youth is going to be a factor. There's just no doubt about it. Like, you go back to the year prior with Joe Burrow and everything. It was his first year for him starting there. It's hard to punch through right away with so much new talent. So I think they could beat pretty much anybody. Alabama would be tough. Maybe not quite them, but it's possible. But they could also lose to some teams. That's the thing with them. They could lose to some teams that maybe they probably should beat, like the Mizzous or the Ole Misses. I think those teams could sneak up and beat them. So I just have a tough time, especially with the Chase, the opt-out. That's a huge, huge factor. And Shelvin, those are just gargantuan pieces.
Yeah.
So literally gargantuan by Shelvin standards. But so I'm going to take the under, even though I like LSU. I think they're still going to be good. It's just 8 is a lot.
Okay. I'm going under as well at plus 115. That's the other thing is the odds.
Money. Yeah.
Yeah. Plus money is makes it an easier choice for me. And I'm actually going to make that my lock in the SEC.
Yeah, I really thought about that
with that value.
I forgot to say my lock.
Oh, you're locking in LSU as well?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Oh, wow. We almost had a sweep there. Well, at least we won't have pie on our face for that if we don't.
Honestly, I was expecting you guys to be even more negative because that's just when anyone talks about LSU this offseason, it's just, oh my gosh, all that they've lost. And which makes sense because it is insane what they've lost. But even though I'm going under, I'm making it my lock. I'm going to try and make the case for if they do go 8-2, 9-1, here's how it would happen. And it's not crazy, even though obviously I'm not picking it. So on offense, with the system that Ensminger has, he was, the offensive coordinator last year. Maybe they should be treated like Ohio State and Oklahoma, where kind of no matter how many guys they lose, the system is just going to make sure that they're pretty good. And we didn't even bring up the tight end. You got Terrace Marshall, the tight end, true freshman, Eric Gilbert. He's a stud.
He should be amazing right away.
Yeah, he could be the Derek Stingley of the offense, having a great freshman year. And then on defense, secondary still great. Jabril Cox coming in from North Dakota State could shore up the linebacker group. He looks to be really good just based on the way everybody talks about him and what he did at North Dakota State. And then up front, they've always got a good D line. They recruit so well. So that's the case for going 8-2, but so much.
I can't treat them like Ohio State and Oklahoma just yet.
Yeah. One more. If they do it with Miles Brennan this year.
If they do it this year with so many new uncertain pieces, then okay, I'll buy in. But
yeah, that's
reluctant.
I agree with that. Okay. Tier 3.
Yep. Our first team in tier 3 is Ole Miss. They're over under set at 4. Ryan, lead us off. What do you think of Ole Miss here?
Yeah, the Rebels, Lane Kiffin taking over here. I think he can do pretty well here, especially this first year. There's some talent to work with, so I'm going to go over on this one. It helps having Arkansas and Vanderbilt both on the schedule, so I think they can get a couple wins there. That's nice. Well, Arkansas might be improved. But I know we've kind of touched on some first-year head coaches, and we're like, first year, this is kind of a tough situation for a first-year head coach. But I think I'm just a little higher on this team than maybe I guess I am on some others. Kiffin, he has got pieces. I think Matt Corral is kind of got the leg up right now at quarterback. He seems to maybe fit more a little bit of what Lane Kiffin wants. But I do think we'll see some some John Rice Plumlee for sure. They could definitely have some 2 QB packages going on there, which I'm sure they could have success with. Plumlee is we all know he's a fantastic runner, but it's not like Corral can't run either. So he's got
True.
good options there. I think he's got some pieces, and then their center, they did lose Eli Johnson. He did opt out, so that's that one hurts. But they still got 3 other guys coming back with starting experience on the line. Elijah Moore is a good wide receiver. Jarian Ely, I like him at running back. He's versatile, dude. He's awesome. He's a great player. So I think there's things that you can get creative with. I think with that offense, and I think Kiffin has the mind to do it. Defense was pretty horrible last year. I'm not gonna lie. But I think they can get better. Chris Partridge is the new defensive coordinator. He came in from Michigan, kind of learned under Don Brown, who's knows what he's doing on the defensive side of the ball. So hopefully he can turn that out around a little bit. The interior of the line is the thing that kind of worries me, ability to stop the run, but they do have some good edges. With Sam Williams and Ryder Anderson on the edges are a pretty nice duo. Williams had 6 sacks last year. So, I think the linebackers are probably the best group that they got. They all got coming back. So the secondary is also a little thin, but so middle group linebacker, okay. D-line, if the middle is okay, they can hang in, then they could have okay defense. Like it could get better. They don't need to be awesome, just better.
I think it could get better. Yeah, they played a lot of young guys in that secondary, so it's hard for it to be much worse. And bring up the good group of linebackers, Lakia Henry back, Momo Sanogo. So there's some pieces. It's not going to be a great defense, definitely not, but hoping for improvement. And like you, I mean, I love Lane Kiffin, so obviously I believe in what he can do with the offense. So yeah, I'm gonna go over.
Yeah, I love Lane Kiffin as well. Jeff Lebby coming in from UCF as the OC as well, that they can blend. And we saw what Rich Rod, a different system, but Rich Rod was able to have that offense kind of humming. So I don't see why that would really regress at all this year. I don't even know, Ryan, if you mentioned Elijah Moore at receiver. He's another weapon. Was he the one that peed in the end zone?
He is, yes.
Yeah. That's what he's famous for. That's good. That's good. No, but it's just weird because last year they actually had a pretty good pass rush and got a lot of sacks and pressure, but the overall defense was pretty poor. So hopefully they can develop something to generate some more pass rush this year. But I'm just, as far as year one for Kiffin, I'm just not overly optimistic. I'm leaning under. They might push, but 4 of their first 5 games are against ranked teams, and they've only won 1 or 2 conference games the last couple of years. I think they'll be improved, but not ready to take the next step in year 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, here. What do we got? Next squad. We got another team here from Tier 3. We got Mississippi State. So we got Mississippi's right next to each other here. With the over-under set at 4, with the under being the huge favorite there at -210. That's just kind of ridiculous. Michael, what do you think here on Leach's squad?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super high on them. I do think Leach is a good coach, obviously, and KJ Costello coming in from Stanford, I think, is a very good quarterback. Though Leach released the depth chart, and Will Rogers, a true freshman, is actually technically a co-starter. You got the or there, but Costello, he said, is very likely gonna be the starter. So we'll see how much that means throughout the season. But it's going to be tough in year 1, I think, for Leach with a disjointed offseason. The receiving core is not, I don't think, what he would like. Osiris Mitchell comes back, but that's about it. Offensive line only has a couple starters after losing a solid grad transfer to Florida. And they're just going to be asked to play a whole different system. So I'm low on that in this offseason. And Kylan Hill, their star player on offense, if you were going to choose one position to have a star with a Mike Leach offense, it would not be running back. That's the least position you'd want it. I'm sure he'll make use of him, but maybe not as much as a Rich Rod type offense or something like that. And then defensively, also a new system. Zach Arnett comes in from San Diego State. The 3-3-5 is just going everywhere in college football. It seems like, successfully in a lot of places. And there's some good pieces on the line. Marquise Spencer at defensive end, but the back 8 is pretty much, Errol Thompson comes back. He's a great linebacker. but not much else. I think the secondary is going to struggle again this year. Not much experience back there. So overall, I'm just pretty low with, again, shifting schemes on both sides of the ball. So I'll go under.
I'm actually gonna lean over just because of this plus money. I'll take the plus 155. We'll take a shot. I think if Leach is gonna, I see him more having better short-term success than long-term success. That's just my personal opinion, and I think the marriage with Costello can work. Costello's experienced, and I think they'll be able to kind of throw it all over the yard. And this year, I think they'll be able to score obviously enough, and they might even scare some defenses and might beat someone unexpected. Like Leach always tends to just pull a rabbit out of his hat like once a year, just kind of out of nowhere. Like Washington State would give Oregon a game out of nowhere. So you touched on Kylan Hill, Michael. I'm really anxious to see how Leach uses him. I feel like he's too good of a player not to use, but obviously he won't be used in the traditional running back way that he normally would. And the defense, I know it's not what they had a couple years ago with guys like Montez Sweat and whatnot, and they're transitioning to a new system, but there's still some pieces that I guess the top returnees that they do have are on the D line, and hopefully they can generate something. And you mentioned Errol Thompson at linebacker. Obviously guys are going to need to step up, but it's like with Leach teams, I'm not really concerned about the defense as much. I think the offense can keep them in a few games and maybe sneak out a win to get over.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Trey here. I'm going to take the over just because if I wasn't looking at the odds, then I would go under here. But I mean, I can't, minus 110. I'm at 210, excuse me. That is just so much to give. So yeah, I'll take the huge plus money on the over. I could see success. I really could. I don't think it's that far fetched when you talk about Mike Leach's offense spreading it out. I just think it's, with Costello at quarterback, who's a proven commodity, his big arm, I think he could actually, do decent, at least surprise some folks, maybe present some unique challenges into that conference. They get Vandy, Arkansas, and Missouri all coming to Starkville. They could obviously lose any of those games. Vandy would be tough to lose, but they could. So those three, let's say if they get those three, I could see them stealing a couple others. So yeah, it's possible. I'll roll the dice and say over.
Sure. And even if they do go under, let's say, I'm right and they end up going under. Leach took a while to get going at Wazoo, so I don't think it certainly wouldn't be time to panic. Like he was, I think in even year 3, he was 3-9 there. So eventually he got it going though. So we'll see what happens at Mississippi State, but let's move on.
They were pretty horrible when he got to Wazoo. That's not quite apples to apples there.
Yeah,
there's more to work with in Starkville right now.
Tougher competition though too.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Tier 4, we have alone in Tier 4 is Arkansas. Their over/under set at 1.5, and the under is a minus 170 favorite. What are your thoughts on the Hogs, Trey?
Well, the good thing for Sam Pittman, the new coach there, the Razorbacks pretty much have nothing to lose this season. There's obviously zero expectations with an over/under at 1.5. They haven't won an SEC game in a couple years, but I like his coordinator hires. Everyone was concerned about Sam Pittman, but then he brings in a good offensive coordinator, Kendall Briles, for the offense. We know he can move the ball there, and now he's going to work with Florida transfer Felipe Franks. His defensive coordinator is the former Mizzou coach, Barry Odom. Solid choice. I like the coordinator hires there. Offensively, I touched on Franks at quarterback. They also have Rakeem Boyd. He's an underrated running back.
Yes.
Major concern for them, though, is the offensive line, especially going up against, 10 different SEC defenses this year. That'll be a challenge. But there's some pieces at the skill positions to at least help them. Defense has been a disaster the last few years. They lose some key pieces on all 3 levels. Hoping that the highly recruited transfer Xavier Kelly from Clemson can have some success for them on the D line. They also got one of the best names in the country. Their linebacker Bumper Pool. He's a solid linebacker. But when I look at it,
we talked about that guy on the podcast. I feel like when he was getting recruited.
Oh, that's right.
A couple years ago, and we told the story of how it happened. Like his dad essentially was would love to play bumper pool, which I guess is a game that's similar to billiards, and he just bet some guy or something like, I bet you I'm going to name my kid Bumper Pool or something. I don't know, but he did it.
It's
Anyway.
a bold move, but
pretty
I
drunk.
like it. But when I look,
sorry to interrupt.
as far as no, I mean, hey, it's all right. It's a good sidebar for Arkansas here. But they're going to be battling Vandy for the SEC cellar. Unfortunately, they don't even get them on their schedule, which kind of sucks. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I had to go under. They drew all the tough teams from the Eastern Division. I just don't see them getting 2 wins, so I had to stay under.
I agree. Got to go under. Good hires. Seems like they can hopefully get it going in the long term. But they're dealt too tough of a hand here with the short off season. At least they do have some pieces coming back on that defense. There's a good amount of production coming back. So hopefully that side of the ball can take a jump. The offense, it's hard not to get better from where they were last year. So maybe both sides can get a little bit better. I do think the offense will. Kendall Briles, he's great. He's a proven commodity. They have a solid quarterback. Franks isn't, amazing, but he's a solid quarterback, way better than what they've had. And Raheem Boyd is a really good running back. Outside of that, though, not too confident in their offensive repertoire. So I'm going to go under, just asking 2 wins against, it's going to be 2 big upsets. Like, they're going to be big underdogs. And, last year, only 2 of their SEC games were within 1 score. So they were getting beat down by pretty much all the SEC teams there. So I just can't see them getting to a couple. So going under.
I'm going under too. If there's any coordinator that can work some magic with an offense and do the best that he can with a short off season, then I think it's Kendall Briles. What he did at FAU was super impressive. But I don't know. Yeah, the schedule is just too brutal, so I got to go under.
Yep.
Okay, let's take a look here. If you're watching on YouTube, by the way, subscribe to our podcast on YouTube, helps more people find the show. Let's take a look at our tiered rankings for the SEC West. So just recap that. So tier 1, tier by themselves, of course, is Alabama. Tier 2, we've got A&M, Auburn, and LSU. Tier 3, Ole Miss and Mississippi State, the Egg Bowl tier. And then tier 4, unfortunately, all by themselves, Arkansas. Any possible changes we could make to that, or what did you guys think?
No, I think I really don't. In terms of maybe order, I think 2, 3, and 4 could just be totally interchanged. I mean, I could make a case for really all of them, or especially A&M and Auburn. But no, I don't. I think these are accurate. No one could debate these. It's impossible.
Well, yeah. I kind of think so. That's why I asked the question. Like, you could debate the order, like you said, but the tiers, they kind of make themselves.
Yeah, you could. Some people will want to make the argument that LSU should be on the first tier with Bama, just because they are the defending national champs. And it's hard to, they don't want to put them down until they've actually proven that they should be down, I guess, in that sort of way. Right. But if you just kind of throw away last year, which is, I guess you don't have to completely throw it away, but just look at what they have coming back. It's just, we obviously all agree this is where they should be, but I think some people would want to make the argument that they should be up there at the top.
That's fair. Okay. Let's move over then to the SEC East. And this first tier makes itself as well. The order is the only question between Florida and Georgia. Let's see. We went with Florida as number 1, and their over-under is set at 7.5. The over is a -135 favorite. What do you think about the Gators, Ryan?
I like the Gators. Yeah, I like them this year. Trask did an amazing job filling in, obviously, at quarterback for Franks last year. So, it's kind of weird how far Trask has come in such a short amount of time. Before the start of last year, he was just nobody really heard of him, and he wasn't even a highly recruited guy. So he just shot onto the scene here, and credit to him for doing that, but also credit to Dan Mullen for developing a backup quarterback like that. It's going to be a good offense. Kyle Pitts, maybe the best tight end in the country, coming back. He's a huge piece. First round draft pick next year. They got Trevin Grimes, Kadarius Toney, 2 good playmakers on the outside. A few starters on the O-line. maybe they'd like to see a little more balance this year. Last year they were a little pass heavy, probably compared to especially the year before, where they had more success running. But I mean, they were good offense either way. So like, however you get the yards is however you get the yards, as long as you get them, I guess. But I think they would prefer to have a little more on the ground game next year. They were 13th in the SEC in rushing yards per game. That's not ideal, but I do expect that to improve. And the defense, of course, they're going to lose some key pieces: Grenard, Henderson, and Reese. Like, a great player at each level of the defense there. But when has Florida not had a good defense? I mean, it's been forever. Yeah. It doesn't matter who they lose. Yeah, they lose those guys, but they're going to be great. I'm not worried about that. The line should still be good. They got Kyrie Campbell holding down the middle. Bretton Cox is a big time transfer coming in from Georgia. He could be that explosive piece off the edge that they may lose with Grenard.
Yeah.
So that's a huge one. Ventrell Miller, good linebacker. And I think even after losing a guy like Henderson at the corners, they're going to have a great duo. They really are. I mean, Marco Wilson's experienced, redshirt junior. He'll be kind of the experienced corner, but he's good. He's got all SEC performer in him. Kyer Elam, he's the young guy who played last year as a freshman. He's could be the next really good Florida DB. So there's talent to work with for Mullen. The defense is going to be good. Mullen knows how to coach offense. This is a good team. I mean, they've proven it the last couple of years. So I'm going over. I like Florida.
Everyone knows by now how much I like Dan Mullen, how impressed I was with Kyle Trask. He was just so efficient. I don't see him really regressing too much this year. He does lose Freddie Swain and Van Jefferson on the outside, but like you said, they still got Grimes and Tony there. So they're spread out.
I think they lost like 3 or 4 receivers that are in the NFL, but like, yeah, Ryan, you said they spread out the ball so much that
it was like they all had around 600 yards. There was like a ton of them. It's like, so they're still
and Ryan, you touched on the concern maybe with the running game. They bring in the Miami transfer Lingard. They got Damian Pierce. He's going to need to step up. I think they can, because the line returns some production, and they bring in a Mississippi State transfer as well.
Yeah.
So there should be a good group in front for them to run behind. And Mullen will want to establish that run, especially to help Trask. And the D, man, Todd Grantham, it's improved each year he's been there. Most of last year's 2 deep is back, and SP Plus projects the Gators to have the 3rd best defense in the country. So that's not going to be an issue, or at least it shouldn't be. And overall, when I was trying to compare them versus Georgia, really the reason I have them, or I liked them over Georgia, was because they avoid Alabama and Auburn in their crossover games, where Georgia has to play both those guys. So I'm going over for the Gators, and I'm actually going to make them my lock.
We're just doing one lock for the entire SEC. Am I right?
That's right. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Cool. I have Florida number 1 in the East as well. I guess we all agreed on that. Or Ryan, did you had? Yeah, you like?
Yeah, I have them number 1. Also, it's honestly, I mean, if they had the exact same schedule, it'd be like neck and neck.
Yeah,
I might not know who to pick, but when you add in the Jamie Newman the Jamie Newman sit out for Georgia, and Florida not playing Bama, that did it for me.
It was going to be very close had Jamie Newman not sat out. I probably honestly would have gone with Georgia if they still had Jamie Newman. We'll get to Georgia. We'll get to them, of course, next. But yeah, I also like Florida just because continuity. In this offseason where it's so important. Returning quarterback, returning coordinators on both sides of the ball, and then all the reasons you guys brought up. So I'm going over as well. Let's get to that number 2 team here.
All right, we got Georgia is, of course, our number 2 team. Their over-under is being set at 8.5, with the under being slightly favored there. So let's see, Trey here. What do you think about your Bulldogs? You're a Georgia guy.
I do. I love the Bulldogs, but lately it seems like I've been more pro Gators on a lot of these episodes. But I love Georgia. I went there to Athens. It was fun. I'm gonna go under. But I will say it's not going to be because of their defense. This could easily be the best defense in the country. It's rated 1st in SP Plus right now. They have so much returning production, All-American and all-conference players littered all across the D. So that side of the ball, especially with Kirby Smart, that's going to be great. And that hasn't been the issue in his tenure. The big unknown, though, of course, is the offense. They've kind of averaged in the 25 to 30 range in terms of offensive ranking in Kirby Smart's tenure. And now they're going to have to break in a new offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, And like we just mentioned, all offseason, we thought it was going to be Jamie Newman at quarterback. He opts out. So then they've got JT Daniels, the SC transfer coming off of an injury, or you've also got Dwan Mathis, the redshirt freshman. Reports are he's been looking great and solid, but again, he's going to be he's a redshirt freshman. He's got some whoever it is, they got weapons. You got George Pickens, great receiver. But I do got to admit, like after him, there's just going to rely on young blue chip talent. I'm sure someone will step up, but they don't have those big time receivers that they would need for maybe an inexperienced quarterback.
We kind of said that last year. We said, oh, someone will step up. And I guess eventually George Pickens did, but it wasn't a great receiving core last year.
No, I'm not. And looking at the preseason, I'm not really super excited about the receiving core. And then the biggest issue, though, is the line. They have to replace over 600 snaps from last season. It's not the greatest recipe. So I'm just a little discouraged with the offense. Obviously, they have so much recruiting talent that they've acquired, but they need it to start coming to fruition here. So with me being a little wary for the offense, and they'd have to go 9-1 or 10-0 to beat me, I have a hard time seeing that, especially with their schedule playing Alabama, Florida, Auburn. So I had to lean under.
Yeah, I'm going under. I mean, I don't have a hard time seeing 9-1, 10-0. You know, I think their upside is unlimited.
10-0 is pretty tough.
Yeah, 10-0 would be tough, but it's possible.
I know it's possible. It is.
Just because the defense, I mean, it's insane. It is the best in the country. Just there's too many guys to name because it's the depth too. Like there's 5 stars that are backing them up. You know, like there guys are going to break out too. That like Nakobe Dean at outside linebacker, maybe Nolan Smith as a pass rusher, both like 5-star guys. Tariq Stevenson, a former top 50 recruit, he's supposed to have a huge year as a corner. So there's just no weakness anywhere on the defense. I mean, the stars are Jordan Davis at nose tackle, Monty Rice at linebacker, Richard LeCount, of course, in the defensive backfield at safety.
There's still guys you're not even mentioning. That
I know.
really
I know. It's ridiculous how good
insane.
they're going to be. So no weakness there. Offense, like Trey said, has questions. I mean, some good things. Running backs, maybe one of the best groups in the country is Amir White and James Cook. But I guess, yeah, everywhere else, offensive line, losing 3 starters plus Cade Mays transferring. Receiving core, we brought up the questions there. Dominique Blaylock on top of that, out for the year again, unfortunately. Trey McKitty, the Florida State transfer tight end, is, I guess, kind of questionable to start the season with an injury. So I don't know. And I'm not high, just getting to the quarterback discussion. I know JT Daniels, it seems like maybe is not the favorite to start now. That's kind of changed, but I'm not high on JT Daniels. To me, potential is there, but the potential that he's Jacob Eason 2.0, I think is also there, which, and I unfortunately don't mean that as a compliment. It's not terrible, but
right.
I just need to see it from him before I believe that he's going to live up to the 5-star billing. So yeah, with Alabama on the schedule, I think 8-2 is more likely than 9-1.
Yep. We're in agreement there. I've kind of been talking about the offseason about how I was never like super high on Jamie Newman. Like I know he was going to come in and he's a good quarterback. Wasn't trying to deny that, but I just didn't think he was going to come in and be, you know, all that and a savior. But I did think he's better than JT Daniels and Mathis. Like that was not really a decision in my brain. So that's just a huge loss and at the most important position. And I don't see how it can't cost them one game, you know, at least one game. So with Jamie, I probably would have guessed maybe 9-1 would have been their most likely record.
I think I would have, yeah.
Without him, I would say probably 8-2 is probably their most likely outcome. So the defense is amazing. It's going to keep them in every single game, but the offense might lose them a game because they just can't quite put up enough points. So like if they're going to go win at Alabama, how do they keep up with Alabama?
With the over-under at 8, would you guys be more surprised if they won 7 or 9? So if they underachieved at 7 or kind of overachieved,
I would be more
9,
surprised if they won
7. Yeah, I would be too, because that would be 3 losses. One, Bama's okay, Florida okay, but then even another one like that might really jump up and surprise you. That would be 3 where
talent alone can get them the 9 if they, the chips fell their way, but 7 would be kind of eesh.
Yeah, because there is still the possibility. Again, we're lowish on the offense, but there's a chance that Todd Monken just opening things up it kind of
Yeah.
unleashes all that talent, and it just, they skyrocket like
Maybe it's
LSU.
like
Of course,
the U's who's looking pretty good.
yeah, maybe
Yeah,
it's something like
if
that.
you have a number
I
one
don't know.
defense, like even if you just have like a slightly above average offense, you can be a really good team.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they will be. They're a playoff contender. So,
Yep.
all right, let's go
All
to the
right.
second tier.
Yeah, second tier. Our number 3 team in the SEC East is the Tennessee Volunteers. They're over under set at 5, with the under being the slight favorite. Michael, lead us off.
Okay, so they were 8-5 last year, but they won 6 straight to end the year. So that's, they're kind of a trendy pick this year to take a big step forward, in part because of that. And I can see why. The offensive line is stacked. All 5 starters coming back, including Trey Smith, who's just as beefy as Trey. And they bring in Cade Mays, we just mentioned, coming in from Georgia. He is eligible, so
Yeah.
that's a huge addition there. They've got so much talent up front. It's going to be good for Ty Chandler and Eric Gray. Good pair of running backs. Question mark is, I guess, the quarterbacks and receivers. Jarrett Garantano is probably going to be the starter, and he's, of course, inconsistent. I think he's better than maybe people give him credit for.
Yeah, I do too.
He's not great, though. And the receiving core, I mean, Josh Palmer is kind of the only known quantity. Other than that, and it's not like he's some star. And other than that, I mean, you got Velus Jones coming in from USC. He was a big recruit, but never really got any traction at SC. Now, there's a lot of good receivers there, so maybe he could still be good. And then you got a senior who redshirted last year because he was low on the depth chart, and then a bunch of highly recruited freshmen, basically. So it's a question mark. Someone needs to step up. The defense, I would say, doesn't appear to be like great at any level, but they're good everywhere. So at linebacker, Henry To'o should be a breakout star, big recruit.
I think the linebacking could be pretty darn good.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, maybe I undersold that.
He's also going to be pretty darn good. Those sophomore linebackers on the inside.
Yeah.
Pretty spicy.
Yeah, so maybe that could be a great group. But the biggest question, according to Jeremy Pruitt, is the pass rush after losing Darrell Taylor. But SP Plus projects the defense to be 7th in the nation. So when I said pretty good everywhere, that wasn't an insult. That means like they're not even mediocre anywhere. They are good, I think, at every level. I'm not sure if I see top. I see the 7th best. Maybe I'm not quite that high, but they're good. So I think 5-5 is the most likely record with a brutal schedule. But I'll lean over.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I'm in the same line of thinking as far as the record. 5-5 most likely, but I'll go over. I think 6 is more likely than 4 at this point. Especially with the over you get plus 100 there. It's a little better odds. So definitely gonna lean with the over. For me, I love offensive lines. I think that's just one of it's just so important. When you have a group that can lead you like that, it makes it so much easier on every part of rest of your team. It makes it easier on your quarterback. It makes it easier on your running back, receivers. It makes it easier on your defense because you can sustain further drives, so the defense doesn't have to be on the field that long. I just think it's so vitally important. And Tennessee struggled with that for so long. Their offensive line was
It's crazy
horrible.
how quick they've turned it around.
I know, but Pruitt has done, that's maybe the most impressive job. Like, of any position group in the country, like in the past couple of years, that group has turned around like crazy to have them come this far. So not like they were some incredible unit last year, but with all these things they have coming back, they're going to be hard not to be very, very good. So I like the improvement there. I think the ground game is going to get better. Losing Juwan Jennings and Marquez Callaway is a loss. I'd rather lose those guys than 3 starters up front on my offensive line, though. So I think they can manage that. I think some teams, some receivers will step up. Josh Palmer's good, and I think they'll be okay on the outside. They're not going to be great, but I don't think they're going to need to be great. But I like the defense. I know those in Darrell Taylor's are hurt, but Kavon Bennett might step in and kind of help fill that role. But their D-line should be rock solid. They return 6 guys with significant playing experience. 5 of them are seniors. The one sophomore was started last year, played a ton. They're going to be good against the run, good against the pass. Bryce Thompson's a great corner. I mean, they're good. I see this group being even better than last year that ended up winning 8 games. I know they kind of had a softer schedule-ish on the back end, but I still think they're good enough to definitely get to 5 and more likely 6 than 4. So yeah, over.
This play is kind of me just being stubborn because of what you touched on, right? They won 6 games in a row to end the year, but it was not very difficult at all. They squeaked out the bowl win against Indiana. They could have easily lost. I mean, to their credit, they won those, but I knew that they were going to be one of those trendy teams in the offseason. And then they had those couple of weeks where they were just recruiting really, really well. But obviously that won't really affect this year. But they were one of those hot teams. So usually with that, I like to go play devil's advocate and play the under. So I'm being a little stubborn there, and I'm going to play the under here. I do think they're improved and they're on the rise, but I don't really actually foresee 6 wins. I mean, obviously it's possible, but especially when you consider they draw the top teams of the West. They play Bama, Auburn, and A&M. It's a pretty tough slate.
That's on top of Georgia and Florida. Like the schedule is not fair.
That's a tough schedule for them, drawing those guys in the West. But in my eyes, they're similar to Georgia in the fact where I really like their defense, but the offense just has something to prove for me. Before I fully buy in. They might be a year away. So I love Rocky Top, but maybe not this year.
Okay, let's get to still on tier 2 here. Our number 4 team in the SEC East is Kentucky, and their over-unders also set at 5. The over is a -165 favorite, Ryan.
Yeah, Kentucky's got to go 6-4 here. That's to beat me because I'm going under. Okay. It's mainly because of the odds. I mean, I was a flip flop. You know, I think they're going to be a solid group here, but I'll take the plus money on the under. There's tough games on their schedule. I mean, it's they open at Auburn, you got Georgia, Bama, at Florida, so they play the 3 best teams easily in the conference right now or this year. So that's a tall order. That's very likely 3 losses already. So that's tough. And then they got at Tennessee. That could be a big swing game as far as where the lines we're talking about here. But they could definitely steal one of those games, maybe 2. But they could also drop 1 or 2 games that you're not quite expecting them to. So just not confident in the offense. Of course, how could you be really? They did come up with some magic last year with Lynn Bowden, just filling in. That was pretty awesome to watch for the last back end of the year. He was pretty awesome. He gave him a nice spark. Terry Wilson seems to be the guy coming back from that injury. He might not be totally 100% from that injury back, so that's a little bit of a concern. But he's supposed to be the guy. We're still waiting to hear on Joey Gatewood on his eligibility, but I wouldn't expect him to. I mean, it's already the season's here now, so if I was Gatewood, I would just redshirt and play next year. But we'll see what happens. They do have a good O-line. I'll say that Kentucky should have a
great O-line.
They should have a very good O-line. They do lose an all-SEC guard and Logan Stenberg, but that's the only guy. They still got a lot coming back. Maybe losing Bowden's rushing ability will kind of hurt a little bit as far as their ground game, because they did rush 278 yards per game last year, which I think they're going to be hard-pressed to match that. But they're still going to have a good running game. There's really no doubt about that. So, and then defense, they have a good. Of course, they're going to have a good defense too. I think the linebacking group led by DeAndre Square in the secondary that was kind of thrown to the fire last year. That group should probably take a step forward. D-line kind of worries me a little bit. They lose some major pieces there, and Calvin Taylor and TJ Carter. Really, Calvin Taylor to me was a big piece. So, just they were 11th in the rush defense last year. That's little in their conference. So that one with losing those 2 other guys, I'm concerned there. But I do think 5 wins is probably most likely, just to take that plus money under. So, yeah.
I'm going to go over. I got to give credit to Mark Stoops. I just did not foresee Kentucky being a player a few years ago, but look what they've done. I mean, it just seemed like an impossible place to win, but he's built a pretty solid SEC East squad. The last 2 years, they've had success in different ways. 2 years ago, it was Terry Wilson and Benny Snell. They also had that great defense with Josh Allen. Last year, they adapted the offense to Lynn Bowden, like you touched on, Ryan. Like, it was so fun. They were able to kind of be really flexible on the fly, and they had a really productive offense. Obviously, the big if for me is with Terry Wilson is his passing ability. A couple of years ago, he obviously struggled, but he can run. They also have you mentioned the probably the best offensive line, maybe the best offensive line in the SEC, at least one of them. I guess that's a little aggressive.
Bama.
Alabama's
They could be.
Bama's
They could be.
They're
Bama's
right
is
there.
pretty good, but they're a
very
force.
good.
So I'm actually, even though I don't love Terry Wilson, like the way that they've worked that offense the last couple of years, I'm encouraged. And the D, you may be undersold a little bit. Like I like their edge rusher, Boogie Watson. They got a strong core in the secondary. They got a blue chip freshman, Justin Rogers, on that D line. Hopefully, maybe he can produce a little bit, or at least live up to some of the billing. So I'm gonna
Their
be
defensive
bullish and
line
go.
class was ridiculous in recruiting this year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're freshmen.
So-
That's just why I'm, future wise.
No doubt. But maybe one can show something this year. But yeah, so I'm going over.
Yeah, I thought a lot about this one because I like Kentucky. I think the defense should be very good again. You guys brought up all the reasons why. They've also got a cornerback transfer from LSU, Kelvin Joseph, who's now eligible. And that was already a great secondary last year and returns almost everybody. So defense will be good. But I guess the concern with me is the passing game. Wilson is good in the short, short passes, but stretching the field is obviously not his strong suit. Now, maybe they can just make it work like they did with Lynn Bowden last year, and Terry Wilson can be the Lynn Bowden, but with throwing ability. But I think, I don't know, with more time for opposing defensive coordinators to kind of look at what Kentucky was doing last year, maybe that won't be the case. So
yeah,
even though I like them,
8 scares me with them.
Yeah, exactly. They won't be in too many of those because of the way they can block. But yeah, I'm going under. The other reason is, so last year they were 3-5 in SEC play with that crossover schedule being Mississippi State and Arkansas from the West. So now we're asking them to go 5-5 when 2 of the games from the West are Alabama and Auburn.
Thank you.
I think that's maybe asking. I mean, I say asking a little bit too much. I think 5-5 is most likely, but I'm willing to take plus 135 on the under because I think it's about as likely as 6-4 in my opinion.
Yep. There you go.
All right. Tier 3.
Yep. All right. Moving on. Tier 3, we got the Gamecocks of South Carolina. They're coming in their 5th team here. Their over-under set at 3.5 with the over being the favorite there. Trey, what do you think? Muschamps group.
Are you sure this isn't Colorado State we're talking about here? We've got Colorado State
Yeah.
East with they bring in Mike Bobo as their offensive coordinator. He was just the Colorado State head coach. And he brings his quarterback, Colin Hill from Colorado State, who actually just beat out the incumbent, Ryan Helinski, which was kind of surprising. That was one of the more surprising quarterback battles that we saw this offseason. That doesn't totally excite me, Bobo and Hill. But
Hill didn't even – it wasn't the
they had Patrick
O'Brien, the guy at Colorado State last year?
So
Hill was hurt a lot.
Hill battled injuries. So
yeah.
But
he's torn his ACL 3 times.
Is that bad?
Ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch. Yeah. The other problem, though, is that last year, the Gamecocks, they had pretty good offensive skill talent, but they didn't do a whole lot with it. There's just question marks at all positions. Shai Smith and Josh Vann are solid options on the outside, but they're at this point not really totally scaring anyone. I will say, if I had to, I will give a compliment to the defense for Muschamp. The secondary should be great, especially with guys like J.C. Horn. Even though the line loses Kinlaw, Aaron Sterling, he's a decent anchor. They got the top recruit, Jordan Birch. He should have production. So there's some pieces that I'm not too concerned with the defense, and that's usually the case with Will Muschamp. It's just he can't really get that consistent offense to get him over the top. But I just got to go under because of that offensive question marks. And like every year with South Carolina, they're the schedule challenge. They might only be favored in 3 games, and they just have to play tough crossover games. So I got to go under.
Okay, I'm higher on South Carolina than you. It sounds like probably because I'm higher on the offense, because I like Colin Hill. Like I was surprised that he is the starter, preseason going into game 1, but it doesn't surprise me. Like I thought he might overtake Helinski at some point during the season, because when healthy, Colin Hill was fairly efficient at Colorado State, and he will be a massive upgrade, I think, to what to not necessarily what Helinski is now, but what Helinski did his freshman year, because 5.8 yards per attempt last year, like he struggled big time. So I think quarterback play will be a lot better. And especially because the offensive line, this might be Will Muschamp's best offensive line he's had. Now that's not saying much at all because they've been terrible, but hey, it's progress. And then I like the defense as well. Israel Mkwamu, the other corner, forms a good duo. The front seven, Kinlaw, you can't replace that guy. But you mentioned one big recruit, Zach Pickens, the former 5-star recruit. Hopefully he can live up to the billing. So I'm going over.
I also am going over here on the Gamecocks. I think it's an encouraging sign that Hill came in and just beat out Helinski with, I'm not going to say ease, but just right away that he came in and won the job. That's a good sign that position should be improved. Again, I'm huge on O-lines. If your O-line's getting better, then I think you're going to get better overall. So with that many returning starters on the front there, I think they'll get better. The run game should be better to help, take the pressure off of the QB and passing game a little bit. And the
run game, though, just took a little bit of a hit with Marshawn Lloyd.
That's true. Yeah,
blue chip running back out for the season. That's brutal.
I know.
On top of losing Tavian Feaster and
they're
Rico Dowdle. So
they don't have a lot of depth there at that running back position.
No, they don't.
It's pretty thin. So good point. But if depending, there's guys that can run as long as you got a good offensive line. They can.
If there's one position where I'm confident that the next guy up can do okay, it's running back.
Yeah, exactly. So offense, even though it's first year under Bobo, I think it should be improved. Kind of hard not to, right? Helinski was pretty rough last year. You guys mentioned it on the D-line. The only guy that I'll bring up was Kair Thomas, who missed pretty much all last year. He's coming back. I think he actually missed the entire year. So that's just another piece that they're bringing back, and along with those other guys that you guys mentioned.
Linebacker Brad Johnson, same thing, missed all of last year. He's back.
You got it. So I think they have enough to get to 4. I know it's a tough schedule, but they're not going to be terrible this year. I think they'll show some promise.
Okay, let's. They better, because Muschamp is coaching for his job. That's for sure.
Yeah, 3 wins would be a goner.
Okay, let's go to number 6 here.
Yeah, we find the Missouri Tigers. Their over/under is set at 2.5, with the over being the -160 favorite. Michael, what do you think about the Tigers?
Well, yeah, new head coach Eli Drinkwitz coming in from App State. I think the best decision he made, probably an easy decision, but to retain the defensive coordinator, Ryan Walters. He's, I think, maybe the most, we've talked about him in the past couple of years. I think he's one of the most underrated coordinators in the country.
Doesn't get talked about at all.
He doesn't, but he should. They finished top 25 in SP Plus defense each of the last 2 years, which is they've gotten much, much better
for Missouri
than they were in years prior. They've got 5, and there's a good amount coming back. They've got 5 players who ended the season as starters on that front 6 back, including Nick Bolton, who kind of came out of nowhere last year.
Jordan Elliott, the only loss.
Yeah, up front. Yeah, that's the big loss at D tackle, Jordan Elliott getting drafted. So that's a big one guy to lose, but that's why their win total is 2.5. They don't need to be perfect everywhere. But yeah, Nick Bolton led the SEC in tackles in the regular season last year. He's known for being really good in coverage. They also lost Cale Garrett, of course, was a amazing linebacker, but he was injured for most of last year, so it kind of counts as half a loss there. The glaring issue,
the nuts and Boltons of it.
I don't know about that. Anyway, the only glaring weakness I would say on that defense is losing 2 starting corners. Offensively, hard to get much worse than they were last year. Sean Robinson it's not a guarantee, but he's the likely starter as we speak right now. He's the transfer from TCU, sat out last year, and he's a dual threat, which is nice. I think he could be decent. He was playing hurt in 2018 for TCU, but still showed some promise. So there's some upside there. And Drinkwitz did a good job of kind of replenishing the talent in the receiving corps. Got transfer from Virginia Tech, Damon Hazleton. He's productive, so he can step in right away. They got Kiki Chisholm. Not sure how you pronounce it yet because I haven't seen him play, but was extremely productive in Division II and apparently has a chance to be their number one receiver right away. Good running back, Larry Roundtree. So there's some reasons to like them, some reasons to think that Eli Drinkowitz can make something happen. Now, something happen is relative. 3 wins is all I need here to get a win. So I'll go over.
I agree. I don't think it's asking a whole lot for this Missouri team to get to 3 with a consistently good defense in the same system. They're going to be solid. A guy you didn't even mention, I think that's going to be. He didn't even start last year on that defense, but he certainly played a lot towards the end. Is Stacy Brown. He's going to be kind of a nickel back for them, kind of do it all type of guy, and he's might be one of their best players on that defense, and he could take a big leap as coming as a sophomore, and they have so much experience on that line. I know there's Jordan Elliott, but experience is so vital. So they were 16th in the country in points against. Ton of starters back. Even a guy like Stacy Brown wasn't even a starter. He's coming, so it's defense is going to be good. And with Drinkowitz, I like Drinkowitz as an offensive coach. He's proven himself as very good. He was NC State's guy for a few years there with Finley, and when he was like every year he was like the most efficient quarterback out there. He was just like nails, and then he leaves, and then NC State's offense goes to complete other direction. So I think he's a good offensive coach, and of course I like what he did at App State. So yeah, I don't think this team's going to get to 5 wins or anything, but they're not going to be that bad. So I can see them definitely get into 3.
Yeah, and Michael, you mentioned that the offense can't get much worse, and I like Drinkowitz, like you just said, Ryan. So I think that can only improve, and I think it will improve at least enough to get them over the hump, because I'm also going over. You guys mentioned everything you need on the defense. They have 2 very winnable games against Arkansas and Vanderbilt, and they're going to have
at home.
I mean, both of them at home.
So right there, they're favorites to do
one
that.
More.
And then they're going to have a couple reasonable chances to get that 3rd win and go over. So I'm higher than the over under here on the Tigers.
Okay, let's get to tier 4. Alone in tier 4, unfortunately, is Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
They're over. Sorry, they're over unders 1. Oh,
this is not a half.
Man. 1.
Wow.
What do you think, Ryan?
Going from 1 to 2 is a pretty big jump there. If you're Vandy, that's going that high to get doubling your win total essentially. 1 and the under is the huge favorite. Like that's.
Yeah, the under's minus 180. Yeah.
So they're expecting 0, essentially.
Well, they think they're expecting 0 more likely than 2.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I'm expecting 0.
Oh.
I'm going to go under. I mean, 1 is okay. 1's most likely, but it's hard to be encouraged about Vandy. I was already low on them going into this year, but now they had 4 offensive linemen decide to opt out of the season, and like they were all. 2 of them were going to probably be at least starters. All 4 of them were at least competing and had playing time lined up. So one of them, I think, was the Michigan transfer. I mean, when you lose that much production up front at a place like Vandy, what do they have left on that line? It's going to be atrocious. It was already atrocious. That offense was terrible. They were nearly 50 yards per game worse in total offense than the second worst team in the conference. Like a huge gap to them. They were under 300 yards of total offense. Only Rutgers, Georgia Tech, and Northwestern were under 300 yards of total offense as far as Power 5 teams. So remember, Rutgers. Georgia Tech was switching from an option offense to, and then Northwestern was, they were garbage. So that was bad company to be in. So
hey,
QB situation.
Fans, aren't you glad you stuck around for over an hour to?
Sorry, what's the former athlon? Why am I blanking on his name?
Mitch Light?
Yeah, sorry, Mitch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure he's used to it by now. QB situation is, it's the worst in the conference. I don't think there's any debate. They're looking at a true freshman 3-star from Texas. Ken Seals is maybe the leader right now, but it's up to it depends on the guy you ask.
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 guys. There's 2 true freshmen.
4 guys.
And 2
they brought them all in at
this
this one class, like 4 guys, 2 JOCOs, I think, and
2 JUCOs, 2 freshmen.
Yeah, it's it's bad. And they lose Keyshawn Vaughn. Keyshawn Vaughn was awesome.
Well, they lose the big three offensively. They lose Keyshawn Vaughn at running back,
Pinckney.
Jared Pinckney at tight end, and Kalijah Lipscomb at receiver.
Yeah, exactly. And Riley Neal at quarterback wasn't amazing, but he had a lot more experience and proved himself in Division I football than anybody that's coming in here. So, yeah, it's bad. Defense was also horrible, but they do return like everybody essentially. They return a ton, but and they were the second worst in the conference, so they got a long way to go. And I don't know, with that terrible offense, I don't think the D's can win them any games. It's not like they're just gonna all of a sudden be good. So 2 would be tough, especially when they don't play Arkansas. So.
That's not fair. They should have scheduled.
I know they should have matched those teams
SEC,
up.
come on.
Yeah, come on,
not
guys.
Fair.
Yeah, so they're gonna have to be 2 good teams to do this. Like, not seeing it.
It's too bad. It's crazy how fast they fell. I mean, they were in a bowl game a couple years ago, so that's too bad. I got to go under 2 just because I can't see 2 wins. The new offensive coordinator Todd Fitch has a lot on his plate. I think like Ken Seals, if he's the guy, I'm not saying he can do a whole lot this year, but he was very productive in high school in Texas. So maybe
you call him a 3-star, but he was, I think, pretty highly recruited.
Yeah, he might not be all end all this year, but I think there's some hope for him, at least in the future. I'm not totally discouraged. He might be thrown to the wolves this year, but
I just mean as a 3-star guy coming in with no surrounding talent, offensive line is going to be abysmal. You lose the biggest 3 weapons on your offense. Like,
it's all right.
What you did in the state of Texas as a high school kid, you're going to have some tough games.
Yeah, it's at least a piece to maybe potentially build around. At least I hope so for Vanderbilt's sake. If I had to be more optimistic, the defense shouldn't be. I mean, it's not going to be great, but there's some nice pieces. The back 7 has potential to be pretty good. Overall, the defense last year started a lot of underclassmen, so hopefully some experience will kind of take a step forward this year. Obviously, they're not going to be great, but hopefully they're a somewhat productive unit. But again, with their schedule, I just can't see 2 wins, so I got to go under.
All right, you know what? You guys were very negative. I'm going to go over on Vanderbilt.
Whoa!
Yeah, so the last time that they were winless in conference was 2014. And now they have 10 conference games instead of 8. So I see 1 win as, I don't know, pretty likely. I don't know where it's going to happen, but I think in 10 games they'll get 1. And especially because I just think this is a season where upsets might be more likely to happen because of the variance that contact tracing brings into play, unfortunately. And yeah, you guys mentioned the defense. Also, in addition to just everybody coming back, they've got transfers from OU and Florida on that defensive line who sat out last year. So I'm going to roll the dice. I think they'll go 1-9, but I'll roll the dice at plus 150 for that enough. Over. Okay, let's recap our tiers here in the SEC East. So, of course, the first tier, Florida and Georgia. Second tier, Tennessee and Kentucky. Third tier, South Carolina and Missouri. And then finally, Vanderbilt. So what about this? Were any possible changes? What are people watching? What are they going to disagree with here?
Ooh, yeah. I don't know who's any gonna just maybe South Carolina. Maybe some people are a little higher on them than maybe we've shown here. Possible they could be notched up with Kentucky and Tennessee.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear, I think, to us. I would hope most people would agree with us. I'm not sure and seeing anything too crazy.
No.
What about you, Trey?
I think it's fairly clear. I think it's tough to debate that obviously the outdoor cocktail party those 2 teams at the top are going to decide the division. But I mean, I guess if some chaos, like Georgia has a tough schedule, and if they beat Florida, then maybe Tennessee has one of those miracle years they could slide in. But I think it's tough to argue with these tiers.
Yeah, exactly. It's just the order. Again, a lot of people would swap Georgia and Florida, which is totally fine. They're super close, I think, in our mind. And Kentucky and Tennessee. I can see why I think a lot of people watching are going to really like Tennessee. And they're, I would say, I guess, more proven. Did I say I might be switching? people are going to really like Kentucky. Did I say Tennessee there?
Oh,
Yeah, you said Tennessee.
yeah.
Oh, whoops. I'm brain fart there.
It depends
So
on what you want. Tennessee might have the more upside, but Kentucky's kind of been stable the last few years. So
Right.
That
you know.
is very well put. You saved me, Ryan. Thank you.
No, I agree. I agree. Good point, Ryan.
Thanks.
Okay. Let's go over our over-unders then. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see them, but we're an audio podcast first. So I'll read out our agreements. We're all over on Alabama, 8.5. We all went under 7 wins for LSU. Ryan and I made it our locks at plus money. We're all under Auburn 6.5 and under on Arkansas at 1.5. Then getting over to the SEC East, we are all slightly under on Georgia, 8.5 wins. We're all bullish on Florida over 7.5 wins. Trey, of course, going with Dan Mullen as his lock. And let's see. And then Missouri is another agreement. We all think they can get to 3 wins. Okay. So now, Trey, are you ready to be put on the hot seat?
Whew, it is steaming here.
All right.
All right, Trey. The hottest seats in the conference belong to Will Muschamp of South Carolina and Derek Mason of Vanderbilt. If they both get fired after this year, who will be their head coaches come 2021?
Well, we've talked about it on this podcast, especially Michael. South Carolina would be trending towards Billy Napier. He played at Furman, which is in South Carolina. He's doing wonders at Louisiana, as we've seen to start the season. He would be a logical choice. Maybe a guy like Dave Clawson would get rumored, but if I was South Carolina, I would want Billy Napier.
What about Derek Mason at Vanderbilt?
Oh, yeah. So if I'm Vanderbilt here, they got to do something unique. You're just not going to be able to recruit toe-to-toe with the rest of the SEC squad. So I might go with a guy like Chad Lunsford from Georgia Southern and run the triple option. Just do something different. I also saw a rumor last year, though, about them like potentially sticking with a Nashville guy, the Titans' old coach, Jeff Fisher. He'd be almost like a Herm Edwards sort of thing. So It would be interesting. But if I was Vandy, I might want
like a USC kind of guy that for a while.
Yeah, he was rumored there. But I might go with Chad Lunsford. Just bring in the option.
All right. Yeah. Will Healy, another guy that Vanderbilt would be very lucky to get. Okay. If Derek Mason doesn't survive.
I agree, though. They got to do something different. I mean, it seems like you just got to. Service academies obviously do.
I mean, James Franklin had success there. He
did. I mean, it's not impossible.
He got 7 wins. Was that his max there? 7 wins?
I think he might have done better than that. I don't remember.
Get to 8.
I mean, either way, they were competitive.
8 or 9. I'll take
anyway. Yeah, we're still on the hot seat. Trey, you're not off the hot seat yet. Which SEC quarterback will throw the most interceptions this season?
This is really tough. I kind of just immediately looked down to the guys at the bottom third or so of the conference. I'm going to say Sean Robinson for Mizzou. I think Drinkowitz is going to try and establish that offense, and the Tigers aren't expected to do a whole lot this season, and they might need to be passing a lot as they'll be trailing. He showed flashes at TCU, but a little unproven, but won't be his fault, but I think he might be the guy.
All right. Yeah, Vandy had 2 9-win seasons under Franklin. Squeeze me.
Okay. Yep.
All right. Trey, who is most likely to win SEC Coach of the Year?
We talked about earlier, if there weren't for all those opt-outs in this wacky year, I wanted to go Jimbo Fisher. I just don't maybe seeing them get over the top enough for him to be the Coach of the Year. So I went to the East, where I'm confident in. You got Georgia and Florida. I know one of them is going to be really good and come out top. I went with Dan Mullen just because if they win the East, and I think they will, they'll have won 9 games and be there. So I went with Mullen.
Okay, last question. Who is better at their job as a recruiter, Coach O or your wife?
Oh.
No. My wife's a bulldog, man. She gets who she wants. So I gotta say my wife. She's a campus recruiter for an accounting firm.
All right. Very nice. let's move on to our SEC championship picks. So we're all going the same. We all have Alabama over Florida. So I'll give my rationale first. So obviously I've got Florida winning the East. Like we've said, kind of the whole episode, very close with Georgia. Again, Georgia does have the higher upside, but I just like Florida's continuity and avoiding Bama on their regular season schedule. And then Alabama to win the conference. I think it's between them, Clemson, and Ohio State for me as the best team in the country.
I 100% ditto everything you said. I wanted to take Georgia, but the tougher schedule kind of did me in. So, and then Alabama is just kind of the cream on the west side.
Yeah, kind of boring. We're all in agreement. It's the no Jamie Newman. That was also the other factor of not being able to go with Georgia, and Bama is just too good offensively to turn down. So Alabama over Florida.
Okay, let's close out the episode here with a questionable finish. Tennessee is a trendy pick to take a big leap forward in 2020. What is a memorable trendy team from years past, and how did it turn out?
Yeah, last year Nebraska trendy pick to win the West, and they sucked.
Yeah, they did.
All right. Well, I'm going one that worked out a little better. Washington in 2016. I just remember everyone was big on them. They were coming off of a 7-6 season, but they had some bad luck in close games. They had a ton of returning production. I know SP Plus was big on them, and they ended up going 12-1 and lost to Alabama in the playoffs. So that one worked out.
That one did work
John
out.
Ross.
What did you say, Ryan?
Said good old John Ross.
John Ross, yeah,
John Ross. John Ross was. You would think that John Ross was the only player on Washington. Those teams.
I mean, it's been different ever since.
Oh man,
never been the same.
No, I'm gonna go more pessimistic though. Ole Miss back in 2016, they had those great recruiting classes under Hugh Freeze. They were preseason number 11. They had that great finish, top 10 finish to the year before. They ended up, it just blew up in their face. They finished 5-7. 2-6 in the conference, and then we know what ended up happening to Hugh Freeze and them.
All right, so I'm glad no one brought up USC. We've never had failed to live up to expectations.
No, never.
Who has the best name in the SEC?
For me, what I love saying the most is Big Cat Bryant, the Auburn defensive end. It's just so fitting for his position too. Big Cat Bryant, cat with a K. So I had to go with him.
Okay. We already brought up Bumper Pool, so I'll go with somebody else. I'm going to say Chance Poore, kicker from Kentucky. Now, unfortunately, the backup kicker because he didn't have a great year, but just like you can't help but laugh when a kicker comes up and it's Chance Poore. Oh, didn't he kind of blew the Florida game last year, didn't he?
Yeah.
Sound familiar.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to go with Miles Slusher. He is a freshman defensive back at Arkansas. Just makes me want a slushy when I hear his name, Slusher, slushy. Tasty beverage. Haven't had that for quite a while. Where's a slushy from? I can't even, now that I say it, I can't even.
Well, there's a Slurpee.
Slushies are just general.
That's the general thing for like
not
a
brand name
right?
or anything, I don't think. Maybe it is.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Anyway, let's last question here of the episode. Give me a bold prediction that you may not totally believe about the SEC, and I'll actually go first here. So it's about Lane Kiffin. I think he's going to pull off a massive upset. So I'm either going at home against Alabama. Remember at Tennessee, first time around there. Well, now he's at Ole Miss, but at Tennessee, he almost pulled that off year one. And then, or at LSU. He's going to win one of those.
All right. I'm going to say, speaking of LSU, I'm going to say they finished 4th or worst in the SEC West. There's just too many missing pieces. And if you had to look at them just solely in a bubble, forget what happened last year, I think that they could have a big time regression and finish 4th or worse.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and say that Kyle Trask will end up being the number 1 overall pick in 2021 draft.
Oh,
I think he'll have such a big year. People will be like, oh, he's got the size, got the arm.
Wait, what? Trevor Lawrence?
No. Kyle Trask.
Yeah, that's why it's
No.
bold.
Yeah.
He doesn't
No,
believe it.
what?
Trask
Justin
is going to
Fields,
shoot up the
Trevor
draft
Lawrence?
boards.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe after Trevor Lawrence. Maybe number 2.
No.
Kind of forgot about T. Lawrence there for a second.
I will
Number
say,
2.
though, Ryan, one time we had Ty Hildenbrandt from Solid Verbal on the podcast, and we were talking about that of like who's going to be the number 1 pick, and I think it was last year, it was before Joe Burrow, and you were saying no, it's not going to be Herbert, it's not going to be Tua. You're like, someone's going to come out of nowhere.
That's right,
Someone's going to pop up, like Kyler Murray the year before, like Baker Mayfield the year before that.
Yeah,
and sure enough, Joe Burrow. So who knows? Maybe this year.
Yeah, man. Don't give me a hard time, Trey. Yeah. Could be Trask. I'm gonna stick with it.
I mean, I'll bet on Trevor Lawrence, but
Yeah,
hey,
I know.
at least you went bold.
That's kind of what the point. It was a bold prediction, right?
I know.
I don't
All right,
necessarily
well,
really believe it, but
thanks everyone for listening to the podcast. I'm glad that our credibility was good for like an hour and a half until Ryan had to go and
hey, watch
crap.
it. Just watch.
just watch. Oh, this might be. I think this is our longest episode ever, guys.
Dude,
So
we've had like 2 in the last couple
you
weeks
got
now.
14 teams and a lot of quality teams to cover.
I think we've been talking for like 2 hours or close to it. So
Kind
I
of tired of
hope
you guys.
SEC fans enjoyed it. If you enjoy the work that we're putting into these preview episodes, would really appreciate you spreading the word about the show. If you're still listening, you're probably a fan, I would guess. So subscribe on YouTube, share us on Facebook and Twitter, share the episodes. Trying to grow, so every little bit helps. And we'll be back in a couple days with a much shorter episode, I'm sure. We're going to preview week 4, so we will talk to everybody then.
You've been listening to the College Football Bros. If you have any questions for the next podcast, email them to collegefootballbros@gmail.com. To keep up with the brothers on social media, like them on Facebook at College Football Bros, follow them on Instagram at College Football Bros, and for their commentary on Saturdays, follow them on Twitter at CFB Bros. Thanks for listening.